This is the Kia EV6 GT line in the Nebular Blue, which hands down is my favorite paint choice inside of the EV6. And in this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about this ride. You're going to find the EV6 either rear wheel or all-wheel drive. This is the all-wheel drive version of the car, and if you live in northern states or in Canada like me, you're going to want to go all-wheel. It's just better all around for wintertime driving, etc. I mean, the handling that you get, responsiveness is fantastic. No complaints there. Hold on, I'm going to go sport mode, pull a UE, and see turning radius in the car. Pretty good there. Back up to speed. Yeah, like I said, the handling, responsiveness is great. So I just put myself in sport mode there, which unlocks better performance, but it also changes up the steering wheel feel there too. So it just makes it a little bit more responsive compared to the normal mode where you have to throw the steering wheel a bit more. But this car is a little bit lower, which means that it handles really, really nicely. No complaints there whatsoever. If you live in southern states, rear-wheel drive is fine year-round. But if you're in northern states or in Canada like me, where we get snow a few months out of the year, rear-wheel drive with the added weight of an electric, they don't really go together. So I would absolutely recommend the all-wheel drive setup. Unless your plan is to only use it as like a spring, summer, fall driver. But like I said, rear-wheel drive wintertime, tend not to mix that well. You're going to find a few different wheel sizes and styles available inside of the EV6, 19-inch on the low end, 20-inch in the majority of trim levels with the GT version. So just the GT getting a 21-inch wheel that has unique summer tires on there too. You're going to find a few different power options inside of the EV6. So it's available rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive with varying power outputs. This is the all-wheel drive version that's also the extended range. So power-wise, we're looking at 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. So it's not quite as powerful as some other versions of the ride that you're going to find, specifically the GT, but it's a boatload of fun. So let's get back up to highway speed here. We'll go in 3, 2, and... boom. Oh, that's fun. That's a blast. So plenty of power there inside of the ride. It's the torque that does it. It's 446 pound-feet of torque. So I mean, you put your foot down and the car absolutely flies. Beautiful. Underneath the hood of the EV6, there is a tiny little bit of frunk space inside of the ride, which, I mean, there's not much, but if you want to throw a few small things in there, your charge cable, etc., you've got that flexibility. There are a few different power options you're going to find inside of the EV6. There's a 63 kilowatt hour rear wheel drive battery that gives you 167 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. This one, as I was mentioning, 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. And then there's the GT, which has 601 horsepower and an impressive 545 pound-feet of torque. So if you want the best possible performance inside of the EV6, go for the GT, but it's overkill and a half. So if that's your style, it's there. But at the same time, the power that you get in the majority of the lineup is excellent. I think most people would be more than okay just looking at the all-wheel drive version. Then one nice thing about the EV6 and other electrics is that you don't really have to do much maintenance. Top up your wiper fluid, change your tires every now and again, a little bit more frequently if you're the type of person to gun it when the light turns green. But it's nice that you don't have to maintain these things quite as much as an internal combustion vehicle. You're going to find LED headlamps inside of the EV6 regardless of whichever trim you're looking at. But when you get into the higher trims, there's also a center LED light bar there too that just takes the nighttime design of this car to the next level. And then even just looking at the styling of the front end, I love the roundedness, the way that Kia's done this with the glossy black highlights that wrap all the way throughout. That nice glossy lip along the bottom part of the bumper work nicely. Technology-wise, in every trim level, you're going to find the forward and the reverse park sensing system. But When you get into the highest available trims, that's where you also get a side sensing system too, where you've got remote smart parking, so the vehicle can help out with parallel and perpendicular parking. It's such a great feature. And then as always, you've got that front-facing camera for a full 360 view, and I love the way that Kia does their 360 camera. The capability to be able to drag and swipe around to see what's going on around you is incredible. You're going to find power folding side view mirrors inside of the ride with turn signals built in, and then they also have the blind spot monitoring system there. So if somebody enters the blind spot, it'll highlight there to let you know. Hopping inside the ride. Oh, we'll get there in a second, but in the higher trims, you'll find driver seat memory, and then the buttons here will be pretty much the same across the board. You've got your side view mirror controls, locks, window controls. You can kill off power to those rear windows and doors. There's a little bit of storage there. And there are 2 different speaker choices available. So this is the upgraded 14 speaker Meridian sound system. And there are speakers all over the place. Moving inside, it's either going to be a power or manual telescoping steering wheel, with power being exclusive for the highest trims. Regular carpeted mats here, I'd personally recommend going for the rubberized trays. You're going to have unique pedals there with a different option inside of the GT. Power adjustable seats for the most part, so forwards, backwards, up and down. You can adjust the backrest, and then multi-way lumbar support there too. There are a few different types of seating material that you're going to find inside of the EV6. So you're either looking at a cloth seat or there's a synthetic leather seat. So there's synthetic leather with a little bit of a mix in a different trim level too, but the seat style is good, and it's also really, really comfortable too. So hold on, let me get... Oh, so the seat's as far down as it's going to go. And up overhead, I've got 3-ish inches of headspace. So I'm 6 feet. So if you're 6'4", maybe 6'5", you're going to have to recline the seat a bit, but you should be okay inside of this ride. But the seat is incredibly comfortable. The headrest, that's nice. Looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Kia EV6. This is the highest available trim level, which gives you a few other options you won't be able to find inside of the lower trims. But if you want to walk through on the lower trim option, if it's available, you'll find that down in the description of this video. But let's dive in and I'll show you what you need to know. First thing I'll point out is that the steering wheel on the ride might be either manual or power telescoping depending on your trim level. This one has the power telescoping option, so just down by the left part of the column. There would be a release otherwise if it was a manual along the left-hand side, so power adjusts there. The steering wheel inside of the ride is also going to be heated in most trim levels of the EV6. So down by your right knee, you've got a series of different controls here. So you've got the option for your heated steering wheel, so toggling that on with 2 unique levels. And the heated steering wheel is heated all the way around. You're going to at least have heated seats in all trim levels with ventilated available there as an option. You've got your push button start there, fingerprint reader, and then there's also your rotary dial shifter. So this is actually kind of neat because if you're out of park, so if you're in reverse, neutral, drive, etc., if you just turn the car off, it's going to automatically throw you into park. You can push here in order to get to your 360 camera, but hold on, if we're in drive for a second, if you push and hold, that is going to give us park assist. So the vehicle has option for both parallel and perpendicular parking. It is a phenomenal system. But if you want to walk through on actually using the park assist system, you'll find it down in the description. There's auto hold. So with that auto hold setting enabled, if you're in drive, you come down to a complete stop, take your foot off the brake, the car's not going to move. And then there's that beeping that we get as you get closer to obstacles. So if you're just not a fan of the beeping, you can just toggle that off completely if you'd like to. And then there are so many different buttons and stalks, but let's start off. There are a few other buttons along the left-hand side here. So you've got your dimmer switch there, so you can increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen if you'd like to. You can open and close the charge door, open and close the trunk. There's your electronic parking brake, so just pull towards you in order to turn it on. Push and hold the brake pedal, push in order to turn it off. And then there's also your traction stability control. So if you're not getting good traction inside of the ride, wintertime specifically, you can toggle that off if you need to. You might also have seat memory inside of your ride. So if you've got it, you've got your 2 different options there. So what you're going to do,
get your driver's seat set up the way that you'd like to, along with your side view mirrors, etc. And then you just push and hold in order for it to remember your own personal profile. Then you've got so many different buttons, starting off along the right-hand side. You've got your mode button there, and then there's also this little star button. So these are customizable buttons. If you were to tap setup on the infotainment system there along the bottom, and then buttons, you've got a few different options available. So you've got a custom button down the screen there, but then you've got your 2 steering wheel buttons. So your custom star button there, what does that one do? You can have it go to your home screen, EV screen, etc. So when you push that button now, it brings you to whatever screen you have set up that way. Which is pretty simple. If we go back to our setup and then buttons, you've got your mode button there too. So your mode is going to bring you between all of your available sources, whichever ones you'd like to select. So if you tend to listen to Sounds of Nature, FM, SiriusXM, etc., select whatever stations, well, I should say whatever sources you tend to listen to, and then all you're going to do is just push in order to change between all of those available sources, if you'd like. Out back home, and then you've got your up-down switch here. So if you have presets set up, you're just going to go up and down in order to be able to adjust that out. If you push and hold it now, that acts as more of like a seek button instead. So nice and slow on the draw, but your best bet, 94.9 FM, is to tune stations that way, which is pretty simple to do too. So you can see there, adjusted it out. You can also control climate, and so many other things using that voice command prompt. So what I'd recommend is go through here when you first get your car and look at everything you can do. Open and close the tailgate, adjust the steering wheel, heated seats, ventilated seats, etc. There are so many things that you can do with your voice in this ride. You've got a volume rocker there. You can push in the middle to mute out your audio. You can answer or hang up on a phone call. And then you've got paddles there, which I'll touch on in a second, because you've also got your stock there. Stock along the right-hand side is going to be for your wipers. So if you just go one down, that's just a single wipe. If you go a level up, that puts you into the auto mode, so that's an intermittent level. You could then use the rocker in the middle. How fast or slow is rain hitting the windshield? Go up to any of those crazy modes, and then just pull towards you in order to get the wiper fluid going. Along the left-hand side, you've got your buttons for cruise control. So there's just a single type of cruise control inside of the EV6. It's going to be adaptive or smart cruise control. So you toggle it on this way. Conditions not met because I'm parked. So once you start driving, you then push that button in order to toggle it on. Sets you at your current speed, and you have to be going, I believe, at least 32 kilometers an hour. So it's at 16, 18-ish miles an hour. So toggle it on there. You then increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. Push and hold up or push and hold down in order to increase, decrease larger increments. You hit the brake to cancel your speed. You can hit the pause button in the middle to cancel your speed. Pause again to resume your previously set speed. And then there's also a distance indicator with 4 unique levels that are available. Think of that like a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi for how close or far you are away from that leading vehicle. I'm personally okay level 1 the majority of the time. You might want to be on level 2, 3, or 4, just depending on your own personal comfort level. Then you've also got this button here, and then you can just push it, and when you do, you can see an icon appearing, disappearing there. So there's a lane keep versus a lane follow assist. So your lane follow assist is if you just do a light push. Lane keep is if you push and hold it. That gets rid of the other icon. So the difference, lane keeping that I just turned on right there. If the vehicle recognizes the lane markings and you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it nudges you back into your lane. With the lane follow assist, it takes it to the next level. So as long as those lane markings are recognized, it keeps you perfectly centered in your lane. Even if you lose focus for a brief second, hands are off the steering wheel, as long as it recognizes those lane markings, keeps you perfectly balanced in your lane. It is a phenomenal system. You can also customize the cruise control system a tiny little bit. So inside of the infotainment system, you go to your setup there, and then vehicle, driving assistance, convenience, smart cruise control. You can have it learn based off of your driving style, but you can also adjust out the distance. So you can either use the button there to adjust your distance, or do it through the infotainment system, but also how fast or slow do you want the vehicle to react? So accelerate, do you want it to accelerate faster, slower? I'm a big fan of speed up fast. And do you want it to react fast or slow? So where that comes into play, because it's strictly an adaptive cruise, if the car in front of you slows down, let's say if you have it set at 80, car in front of you is going slower, yours slows down as well too. If they brake fast, it can brake fast for you too, but how fast or slow do you want it to react? And there are a bunch of other settings in that screen too. And then you've also got these buttons there, which let you customize a few things inside of the cluster screen, which I'll touch on in a second. Your stalk along the left-hand side here is going to be for your lights. So you've got your blind spot view monitor, just in the highest available trim level, but it utilizes the side-mounted cameras to show you what's going on in the blind spot, which is great. But you can also adjust out your lights there too. So you've got 4 unique options, toggle them off completely, but you're going to be in the auto mode the majority of the time. And what I'd recommend, push away, that puts you into an auto headlamp mode as long as the setting's enabled in the infotainment system. So what that means is that if the car recognizes high beams are needed, it turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off before turning them right back on again. If you wanted to permanently lock your high beams out at nighttime, you just push away from there. But if you just want them locked on all the time no matter what, go into your upper headlight mode, push away to turn them on, pull towards you to turn them off. Pretty simple there, but yeah, you're going to be in the auto mode there though the majority of the time. And then you've also got your little paddles there. So you've got your plus and then minus. Where that comes into play, you can see that. It's bumping us in between all of our different regenerative braking levels. So we go down and we've got either 0, 1, 2, 3, or the I pedal, which is one pedal drive. So what happens there is that if you take your foot off the accelerator pedal, it's how fast or slow are you slowing down. So with level 0, you're essentially just coasting. Versus if you were to go either level like 3 or I pedal is a one pedal drive. So you take your foot off the accelerator pedal and you slow down fairly rapidly. So personal preference there, I personally am not a big fan of using the one pedal drive. So you can go to different levels there if you'd like. Then inside of the cluster screen, whether or not your parking brake is enabled or not is there. Vehicle's ready to drive, outside temperatures there, what gear you're currently in. So park, reverse, with your sensing systems active there on top of that. With these sensing systems, it's actually interesting. So you can see there are side sensors and then there are front sensors too. So the side sensors are not going to be standard inside of the EV6. It's strictly the highest trim, but you will have the forward reverse park sensing system there otherwise. You can see your current charge done a few different ways. So how much range do you currently have? So you've got your percentage there, what your regen braking level is on top of that, along with your vehicle odometer there. And then you've got your current vehicle speed, and then I mentioned your kilometers to empty. If you've got different settings enabled, so if you had cruise control turned on, things like that, you get different icons there. And then as you move between different drive modes, you can see what's going on there. So if you're in your normal mode, there just wouldn't be anything there. But as you move between the different modes, so your sport mode gives you more aggressive appearance, My Drive is a customized mode, then snow mode plays with traction stability control, eco's your day-to-day driving. But you can see as you move between your modes, it also adjusts out what your overall range is, expected range that you'll get to. You can also customize the layout here. So inside of the infotainment system, if you go to your setup for a second, and then your cluster head-up display, you've got your brightness cluster theme selection. So you can adjust the brightness of the cluster if you'd like to, but you can adjust out the theme display. So you can link it to your drive mode. So as you move between different drive modes now, so sport gives you a slightly different look. Eco versus normal, etc. I personally am a big fan of the sport mode, but it's also going to use up more battery in comparison. But if you like the look of the sport mode, but you like the economy of the eco mode, you can lock it into different styles. So if we lock it into style C, which is your sport mode, you can now move between different modes and it keeps that mode permanently locked on, which is pretty neat. So you've got that available as an option. So you can customize that. What content do you want showing up? So if you had the blind spot monitor there, would that show up, yay or nay? So that's one. You hit the turn stalk, lets you know if somebody's in the blind spot on either side. And then using the pad along the left-hand side, so you've got your pages button there and then a little scroll wheel. So if you just tap your page button once, that gets you to a few different options. So you've got your charging options. So current trip is from when the vehicle was last turned on. How far have you gotten and what range have you gotten? From there, after charging, so after you've charged up, that's the distance that you've gotten. You can see there, we're currently using 21.4 kilowatts per 100. And that's, I'm sitting here doing an explainer video, but you can see that there's a tiny little arrow pointing down there. That's going to be 21.4 or whatever your current economy is. So as you just kind of scroll up and down there, you can also do a push and hold in order to be able to recenter it back to 0. Scrolling down is how far have you gotten since your last reset, your current range, how far can you get with your current range, your tire pressure, which you have to be driving in order to display, and then your power distribution. This is all-wheel drive, which is why all 4 wheels are showing, but it's which axle is getting which amount of power. Push in again gets you to this basic compass view, so you can see which direction you're facing, but navigate to Tim Hortons. And you can see here. Now it's not full mapping
The route
cluster.
guidance will start now.
But even though it's not mapping cluster, you can at least see your turn-by-turn directions there. And then if you cancel the route out, then you just wouldn't see that information inside of the cluster screen. It would just jump back to the compass view. And then this screen's kind of neat because if the vehicle recognizes the lane markings, these will go green. If there's somebody in your blind spot either side, it would also show down along the very bottom, highlighting red. And then as cars pass you, it also shows you a physical car, a block typically, as the car passes you by. This is the infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Kia EV6. We're in the 2025 Plus models right now. If you want to walk through on the last generation version, you'll find that walkthrough down in the description of this video. But let's dive in. You've got this little hamburger icon along the top. You can tap there in order to look at things like profile settings. So if you wanted to adjust out your profile info, you could. There are 3 unique profiles that are available in the vehicle. So you've got a guest profile that has some limitations, driver 1 versus driver 2. Pretty simple there. One of the benefits of having your profile options there is that if you have presets set up, phones that you've connected, addresses you've saved, etc., it'd be locked into your individual profile. You can adjust your image, but you can also add in security. And that's either going to be either a password or there's a PIN available there too. You can add in a password, but you can also add in fingerprint identification. Where that comes into play is right down here. You've got your little fingerprint reader. So you do have to have a password set up in order to use the fingerprint identification, but you'd be able to fully lock out your profile so people can't look through all of your options there. Beautiful. And then you'd be able to delete the user profile info if you'd like to. You can tap this in order to get back into your user profile info too. You tap the hamburger icon again, you've got your online manual. So you'd scan the QR code using your phone in order to launch into the fully digital owner's manual. You've got your date along the top, which you can tap in order to adjust out your date and time. You've got this bar along the top that you can swipe down to get to your quick launch tray. Toggle the display off, adjust your brightness, etc. If you go into this mode along the top, you can adjust out different screens in that quick launch. So if you want other options there, maybe you had a preference for adding in your position or you wanted your different beep options there, tap done and that saves in that additional option. So the beep, that's the beep that we get as we go through the screen. So you can turn that off if you really want to and adjust out different volumes. You can see whether or not there's a phone on the wireless charge pad and then your current time along the top right side. And there's so many different options available. But let's start off with navigation. So using factory nav in the vehicle is pretty straightforward. You can add in a home or a work address, and the benefit there, if you tap the voice command prompt, you'd then be able to say navigate home, navigate to work, whatever the case may be, to navigate to those addresses. You can hit this in order to search, so you can search by GPS coordinates, so latitude first, longitude second, point of interest icons, charging stations, things like that. It's actually really simple. You can also use your voice if you wanted to navigate that way too. But if we look at a route there, you've got a few different options available. Tap on any of these things for a second. I'll show you why in a sec. So if your phone was connected, you'd be able to call the business directly if that was available. You can route, save location, or look at different point of interest icons. So if you wanted to route out, it's going to give you different options. So either the recommended or fastest. If there were more routes available, it would let you know. You can choose whatever en route you'd like there and then start, route options, or add in a stop. So if you've got multiple places that you wanted to go, you'd be able to add in as many stops as you'd like to. So point of interest icons, things like that. So if you're going on a longer trip, you can add in multiple stops if you'd like. Let's actually do that just for the sake of adding one of these in. Let's go EV charge stations. And let's go, well, it's a little bit further away. Let's randomly choose that. Sure. It's okay, and you can see what options are available for charging. Just tap OK. And then we've got both stops that we've got here. So you could also push and hold in order to be able to readjust it. And then once you're ready, just tap route. Now that we've got the route actively going, you can cancel it if you'd like to. You've got pinch to zoom capabilities as well, auto scale, etc. So if we tap exit, the route's now canceled out. It's pretty simple there. You can swipe across to go fuller screen if you'd like to. If you tap search again, you can see all of the routes that you've taken. One of the nice things about the navigation here is that if the route that you're taking requires additional charge, it's going to suggest charging stations along your route, or you can just manually add them in yourself if you'd like to. You can delete any of the end destinations that you've previously selected. And from there, just tap back again. You can change up your heading view if you'd like to, adjust out your guidance volumes. Navigation priority means that if you've got audio cranked, you're coming to an upcoming turn, it's going to lower the volume for you. And there are different auto modes for scaling and things like that. So you've got pinch to zoom capabilities there, or you can do it with the scale options there. You could hop back home, tap this in order to get to a few things. So displaying traffic info, you can see your overall EV range too. So just based off of your charge, this is how far you can get. Back in here, you've got nearby info, traffic info. You can save your location, but there are a series of navigation settings that are available too. You can show your vehicle speed on the map, show traffic information. Do you want to show point of interest icons? Yay, nay. For your guidance, route options. Do you want to get the recommended, the fastest, the most economical? And then you could do a drag and drop. Which ones it's going to recommend first? You can tap on your alerts there. Do you get alerts? Yay, nay. Route options, you've got different map modes that are available. So you've got either 2D or different 3D options. I'm personally a bigger fan of that 3D look. You can adjust out your font size. It's not a big difference, but you can make it slightly larger if you'd like to. And then you can also adjust out the type. So there's either dark or light maps, and then classic just gives you more information. So if I look at classic clean versus light, just gives you a little bit more info. And then scaling in, yay or nay, do you want it to zoom in or out as necessary when you come to an upcoming turn? With previous destinations, do you want to save them? So this is good from a basic safety perspective. If you don't want to save your destinations, you could. At least that way if somebody hops in, they can't look at any addresses that you've saved. Do you want to recenter the map too? And oh yeah, your GPS info. So if you've ever run into issues with the vehicle, you've got your actual GPS location that you can give a tow if necessary. But that's using navigation. Now, here, if we start to move, so if we just do a pinch out and then start moving, you can see here, we've kind of got an end destination now. So if you know roughly where you need to go, you can just kind of do a drag and drop there. And then once you find the location you like, you just can tap route or tap back to bring it back onto you instead. That's using navigation inside of the ride. Media, you've got a series of different options that are available. So you've got AM, FM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth, etc. And then just underneath the screen, you've got a series of other buttons here too. So if you tap right now, so we're on climate settings, tap, that's going to bring you to a series of options. So you can get to your media that way if you'd like to, or through the screen. If we were to just tap, that would bring you up to all of your available stations. And you can see there's a little star icon. So if you wanted to save in presets, you're just going to tap all of the star icons that you'd like to. So you're essentially saving all of your presets in this way. Let's go through, add a couple more. There we go. So just added a few in there. And then you've got AM stations that are available there too. SiriusXM, you've got all of your SiriusXM stations. Now, if we go to favorites, you can see all of the presets that you've got set up. Once you've got all of your presets set up, if we just hop off of that page for a second, you can now move up and down between all of your presets this way if you'd like. You can also do a push and hold if you wanted it to act as a seek button. You can also use your voice to change stations that way. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Back inside of our media there, you've got AM, FM, SiriusXM again. If you tap this hamburger icon now, you can scan FM. It's the same thing for AM. You can refresh. So if you're new to an area, you're not sure what stations are available, just tap refresh. You can tune manually to get to this old school rocker if you'd like to. Back again. Going back to these settings, you've got your entering station, so you can enter a station in manually that way. You can look at a boatload of different sound settings too. There's the startup maximum limiter. So if you've got the audio cranked, you turn the vehicle off, back on again, you can limit the audio. So it's not going to be cranked when you hop back into the vehicle. You can adjust it the position too. Do you want it driver focused, rear focused, center focused, or you can do a fine, balance and fade this way, bring it back to the middle again. Adjusting at your tone, so your treble, mid-range, and bass. What I've found historically in the EV6, bass cranked a few points, treble up, tends to give pretty good audio. But what I'd recommend here is play one of your favorite songs, and while that's playing, adjust this until it sounds perfect for you. You can adjust out your different guidance volumes too, so as you're coming to upcoming turns, you've got alerts, things like that. What level do you want these guidance alerts to be at? Navigation alerts and your different priority volumes. So with your priority volumes, if you've got an upcoming turn coming, there's a hazard going on, etc., it's going to slightly lower the volume for you to hear what's going on. There's some sound design options here too. So with the sound options, it gives you a slightly more aggressive sound to the vehicle. It's an electric, so you can't really do too much to it, but it's available. You can adjust out radio noise, and then you've got your different warning volumes. Haptic warning is an interesting one. So if you've got anything going on from a safety perspective, so somebody's entered your blind spot, things like that, you might get a little bit of a steering wheel vibration, almost as if you're running over rumble pavement or there's something wrong with your alignment. There's nothing wrong, it's just that it's giving you some sort of a feedback there. And then you've got different warning sounds, safety priority, things like that. So again, same thing with your navigation priority. If you're backing up or pulling forward, etc., if there are obstacles around you, you get that beeping. And if you have audio going, what it's going to do is lower your audio so you can hear all of those priority messages. And then connected devices, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, you can adjust out levels for different things in both. Tapping on SiriusXM gives us a few other options too, so you can look at your different category views that are available, music, talk, sports, etc. Whether you're on AM, FM, or SiriusXM, you've got the main station there. If you were to tap, that gives you more of a fuller screen option there too, entering in your name, save out the station, or pause live radio as you'd like. You can tap this one along the very bottom. So you've got either your media, so AM, FM, SiriusXM, or different media options. Bluetooth audio, so if you had either your phone connected, other options that would show up. Sounds of nature, more like these relaxing types of sounds. So if you wanted those playing, that's there. And then you've also got your USB music too. USB Type-C is the only option there, and you're going to be using the USB ports just down there. You have to use the port along the left-hand side and then make sure that it's set up and highlighted this way. So you just need to make sure, because we're just on charging there, versus this is both charging and data transfer. Then you're just using the port along the left-hand side. Got some EV options available here, so you can see your current battery percentage. If there's a charging station, you can put yourself into utility mode, so you're essentially using the vehicle as a giant battery pack. You can activate battery conditioning, which is useful if you're going to be doing some fast charging inside the ride. You can see what's using what amount. So electronics, so if you had things like a dash cam plug-in, phone connected, etc. Climate, and then right now we're just parked, so that's why we're using no battery as of right now. So everything's currently being used up by electronics and the climate. You can swipe across in order to get to this view. You might actually be on this view when you first start. Same idea, you can see what's going on with your battery percentage, along with what range you're going to get if you've got your climate turned on versus turned off. On top of that, as you move between different drive modes, you can see there. So we're in eco versus normal versus sport. That's going to change up the overall range that you're going to get inside of the ride. So obviously eco is going to give you the best possible range. Normal is going to give you a good amount. Sport is going to give you the worst, but it also gives you the best possible performance. And then you can swipe across into different options. Tap this in order to see again where you can go based off of your current charge. Along the bottom, you can tap this in order to get to your total electricity use. So again, we're just looking at that main screen done differently. Your history, and then you've got some different charge options there too. So you can select individual departure times. The benefit there is that you'd be able to set your precondition. So if we go, I don't know, maybe Monday to Friday, you leave for work those days and you want it to be nice and cool inside the ride. Tap OK, and then 9 a.m. Monday to Friday, you hop into the car. It's going to be nice and cool for you there too. You can tap that. One of the benefits of doing this, we're essentially preconditioning the ride. So rather than taking battery power from the vehicle, it's essentially going to be pulling it from the wall. So you're saving yourself range. It's a smarter way to do it for sure. And you can set up multiple schedules this way if you'd like to. You can tap your AC charge settings. You can schedule when you want charging to happen too. Do you only want to charge during off-peak hours, etc.? So you've got that flexibility. And that's actually kind of neat because you can drag here and select when you actually want to charge up. So if you know you're going to get cheaper electricity rates from 7 o'clock until 6 a.m., you can only charge up during those times. The AC charging current, if you're plugging into an AC charger at home, so whether it's a 1 or 2, if it's not charging properly, you can lower it, which is pretty much going to guarantee that it's going to charge up for you, but it's going to negatively impact your overall charge time. So it's going to take a little bit longer if you drop down. You've got your charging limit for DC charging. So if you're doing fast charging, ideally with charging, you want to go to about 80% in general, unless you're going to be using the charge within the next day or two for a longer distance trip. It's just going to preserve the life of the battery. And it's the same thing for AC charging. Do you want to be at what battery percentage? Again, 80% is that sweet spot. You can also select your V2L minimum maximum. So if you're using the vehicle as a big battery, at what point do you want it to stop? So if you've got other accessories plugged in, it's going to keep on draining until it hits this percentage from there. Then you can also tap your little settings icon in order to get to a bunch of other options. Battery conditioning mode is available there, specifically for fast charging. You can hop into your utility mode. Do you want to get an alert outside of the vehicle when you plug in to charge up? And then with plug and charge, you can set your vehicle up so that it essentially has a credit card on file, so you can just plug in and start charging from there. You do have NECS capabilities inside of this ride too, so if you wanted to use Tesla charging stations, that is available as an option. And then there also is an app for the vehicle too, so if you wanted to do things like precondition, things like that, that is available inside of this ride. I mean, a lot of EV settings that are available, but that's using the EV options inside of the EV6. You've got phone and phone projection. So these are technically tied together. If you're just hooked up over Bluetooth, you're just worrying about phone. If you've got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay connected though, that's where this is going to come into play. But if we just tap phone for a second here.
Turn Bluetooth on in your mobile device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
On your phone, you're just waiting for EV6 to pop up. Pins match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. And you can see here, we're connecting. Now, you can stop here. So we're connected over Bluetooth right now for phone calls and for audio. But you've also got the option for Apple CarPlay inside of the ride.
Contacts download was unsuccessful.
That's an unsuccessful because I selected no. But you've got CarPlay capabilities here too. Now, CarPlay inside of the EV6 is going to be wired and wireless, so you can go either or. And then in order to use wired, you're going to be using the left USB-C port, and you want to make sure that you tap the little icon so that you're doing both charging and data transfer. But we've got wireless capabilities, so let's just go ahead and use CarPlay. Hit yes there. There we go, we're connecting now. Now let's say if you can't even get to this point, CarPlay's not working for you whatsoever, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough on some common CarPlay fixes that you can try inside of this ride. But we're connected. Swiping across brings you to this home screen here. Along the outside, you've got your current time, connection, and battery levels, and then these are the last opened apps. So last opened map, audio application, miscellaneous app, and then you've got your icon view or the home screen, or you can swipe across. This home screen is kind of customizable. You'll always have whatever map was open last, and then your search box and your audio box will always be there. If you have a calendar notification coming up today that hasn't passed yet, that would show up. If you didn't have a notification, that wouldn't be there, and then the audio box and the search box would be stretched across the top there. But you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze that are available, so if you prefer one of those options, that's available there. One of the big benefits of using Waze, I love using Waze. I use it all the time, but you can see live traffic. If there's a cop pulling people over, people are pretty good at marking that off and giving others a heads up. And then you can give people a heads up too. So if you notice that there is a speed trap, crashes, hazards, etc., you can give other drivers a heads up. YouTube Music is available here, and that's strictly YouTube Music. So you don't have YouTube video support inside of this ride. Hoopla is a library app, Live One's a radio app. You've got ChargePoint and Flow that are available there too. And then you can kind of customize the screen a tiny little bit. If you tap settings, you can put yourself into driving focus, but you can also adjust out your appearance and then wallpaper. So maybe you're a bigger fan of something different. You can set that up if you'd like to, so something that speaks to you a little bit more. And then there's some other options there too. And then you can also customize the icon layout. In order to adjust it, all you're going to do on your phone, hop into Settings, General, and then CarPlay. Just find your vehicle. You can customize it if you like or forget. We're going Customize. And you've got the flexibility. Maybe you wanted podcasts along the top, so you just do it a drag and drop in order to be able to adjust this out. And then anything with a minus next to it, you can actually remove it from the screen. But it keeps it all on the bottom, so you can add it back in if you'd like to. But if you've played around with the icon layout too much, you don't like what you've done, along the top right side of the phone, it says Reset. Just tap Reset, Reset, and that just brings you back to that factory default icon layout. On the steering wheel, you've got a little voice command prompt. If you just do a light tap, that's going to bring up the assistant for the vehicle. But if you take that same button, if you do a long push and hold, that's going to bring up your Siri assistant. From there, you can tap this in order to get back to this main screen, hop back to the Kia homepage there if you'd like to. You can tap this in order to get back into Apple CarPlay now if you'd like. Under the screen, you've got a bunch of options, so you can tap home to get back there too. Now from there, you've got your little settings icon. So if we tap settings, that's going to launch you into the settings for the phone. You can see that we're currently connected to CarPlay. If you wanted to disconnect from CarPlay, you can tap this. So maybe you just wanted to use the phone strictly for audio. You've got that flexibility, and we're now disconnected from Wi-Fi for CarPlay, hooked up over Bluetooth for both phone calls or for media. But that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the EV6. Setting up Androids inside of the EV6 is a pretty straightforward process. If you weren't on the device connection screen back home, if you don't have a phone connected, you could just tap phone there. I'm currently connected to one right now, but we're just going to add in a new device, or if we go settings, that'll pull you up to this screen, in which case you're just going to tap
Turn
add new.
Bluetooth on in your mobile device in order to search. On your
From there,
device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
There we go, and just waiting for the PIN numbers to pop up, and PIN numbers match, so let's go ahead and pair. And you can stop here, so the phone's now connecting. Now we're connecting for Bluetooth right now, but you'd also be able to connect wireless Android Auto if you'd like to. If you don't, just tap no, and then it's strictly going to be Bluetooth for phone calls and for audio. You'd also be able to use a USB cable for a wired connection. It has to be USB Type-C, and if you're using USB Type-C, you have to make sure that it's the port along the left-hand side. Now on the phone, it's also asking, do I want all access to contacts and messages? I'm saying no to that one because it's not my car, but you've got wireless Android Auto. So let's go ahead and connect. There we go, a few seconds in. Welcome to Android Auto. So let's go ahead and connect. Look at that. We are now fully connected inside of the ride. So you can do a little split screen there if you'd like to. Pop here in order to go to a little icon view. And then on the device, you've got your current connection, battery level, and then your time too. And then you've got some apps along the outside here. Now you've got Google Maps, so you can tap there to go full screen. Tap again to go split screen. So if you're on this screen, you want to go full, tap the map icon again in order to be able to go full screen. But you've got full pinch to zoom support inside of it, which you don't have on the Apple CarPlay side. You can mute out your route if you'd like to there. You can tap this in order to get to this screen again. If you do a push and hold on the voice command prompt, that's going to bring up the assistant for Android Auto, so for your Android device. Now, if you've got Waze installed on your Android and it's not showing up inside of the vehicle, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough on how you can add it in. You can also customize the icon layout here. In order to do it, what you're going to do on your phone is just search for Android Auto. You're looking for Android Auto settings, so you're going to tap through there, and then you're going to go customize launcher. When you do that, it comes up to this page. So you just do a drag and drop in order to be able to adjust things out if you'd like to. Anything with a check mark next to it, you can either add it in or remove it from the screen there too if you'd like. But once you've done that, in order to have these changes come into effect, all you need to do is go into your vehicle setup, device connections. You're just going to disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to reconnect to Android Auto. And then once we do, the changes that we've made to the icon layout have now come into effect. So it's pretty simple. If you hop back into your vehicle setup now, device connections, you can either be hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a mix and match. So we can see here, we've got the Galaxy connected right now for Android Auto, but we've got the iPhone connected for audio. So you can do that. You can do it this way too. So if you wanted one phone connected for phone calls, one for media, you can do that too. So a little mix and match. You can select priority there too by dragging up and down. So if there are multiple phones in the vehicle, who's going to try to connect to first? So you can adjust it out that way if you'd like. You can add in more devices or tap delete, mark and delete, and yes, and that's just deleting both phones from the vehicle. But it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of this ride. And you've also got Bluetooth prompts. If you want those yay, nay, your system info is there too. So if you don't want your Bluetooth vehicle name to be EV6, you wanted to customize it to your own name, you've got that flexibility. And then you've got your phone projection settings so you can enable or disable Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, etc. But that's connecting a phone inside of the ride. Swiping across, you've got voice memos that are available here too. So a little bit of a limitation there, only 128 megs, but it's there. You can see weather, there's valet mode too, and then setup, and then some other vehicle info, diagnostic data, things like that. If you were in the guest profile, you wouldn't have access to most of that information. And then you'd also wouldn't be able to reset the infotainment system inside of the ride too, but we're in one of the main profiles there. You've got your HD radio data in order to see different things, so traffic versus your radar there too. Notifications if they were available, so for updates and things like that, or scanning through to get to your digital owner's manual. And then you've got all of your setup options, and there are a boatload of different things here. One nice thing is that you can search for different options. So if you know what you want to do, so let's say if you want to adjust out your ambient light, you can start searching for it. So if you know the setting you're looking for, you can search for it that way, which I love. You've got that flexibility. But we can dive in to all of these different options. So vehicle, you can dive in this way to get to your icons, but if we tap any of them, it's going to bring it up to a list view too. So you can drop into any of these for icons or navigate through using the list. Driving safety gives you a few other things. So forward safety and these warnings, things like that, they're just in case settings. So forward safety, if you're going to get into a collision, it can give you a heads up, let you know. Side safety is available there in the highest available trims inside of the ride. And then different lane safety, things like that. So if there's something going on, somebody's entered your blind spot, etc., that is available. There's a blind spot view monitor inside of the highest trims of the ride too. So the way that that works is it utilizes the side mounted camera. So when you hit the turn stalk, to go left or right, it's going to show what's going on right inside of that cluster screen, which, I mean, that's a really neat feature. So you can toggle that one on or off. There's your blind spot safety there too. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it highlights there in order to show you that there's somebody on either blind spot. Driver attention warning, there's a leading vehicle departure. So if you've come down to a complete stop and the car in front of you starts driving and you haven't started driving, it's going to let you know that the leading vehicle has taken off. So pay attention. Then there's also inattentive driver warning. So if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, nodding off, etc., eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. There's some speed limit options too. So there's nothing. There's a speed limit warning and then an assist. So your speed limit warning, you can get that along the very top there. So if we turn it off, you don't have your speed limit there whatsoever. So you can show it. And then there's also speed limit assist, and then there's a speed offset. So are you okay with going a little bit over or under the speed limit? But where this comes into play is, let's say if the speed goes from 50 down to 60, you could take this button and push down in order to drop your speed. If it goes from 50 to 60, you can push up in order to increase to that newly adjusted speed. And that's if you've got the cruise control system going. It's a pretty neat setting, but I'm not a fan. And then you've got parking safety there too. So different camera settings that are available inside of the ride. You've got your distance warnings, your guidelines, etc. So as we go into reverse, you've got your guidelines there. So they're fixed in place, or you've got that dynamic option with that top-down view. So if we're back here for a second, do you want these different guidelines to be there? Yay or nay? And then let's see here, surround view monitor on. So actually, if we go to our camera for a second there, you can see you've got different options. No. You can tap here to go forwards, backwards, or this in order to get a full 360 view, and you can drag around in order to see what's going on around you. I love that feature. You can tap this in order to get back to those other settings there too, but you've got this little P button down the middle here. So if you were to tap it, that's going to either show or hide your 360 camera. But if you were in gear and you push and hold it, that's going to give you the option for full park assist. So the vehicle can help out with parallel and perpendicular parking. It's phenomenal. But if you want to walk through on using that system, you'll find it down in the description of this video. Let's see, but do you want that surround view monitor on? Yay, nay. Rear safety, cross traffic alert. So as you go to back up, if there's somebody coming perpendicular for the right or the left side, it's going to let you know of a potential collision. And then you've got different warning volumes, haptic feedback, and things like that, which we've already seen. So you can adjust these out if you'd like. But that's using your driving assistance options, moving into your different drive mode options. So drive mode is controlled using the button along the steering wheel there. My drive is that little feller. So that gives you the option of adjusting it out. So what do you want your motor to be like? Do you want it to be sporty? Your steering wheel, do you want it to be nice and stiff? Or do you want it to throw a little bit more in order to be able to turn? So you can customize your individual drive mode there if you'd like. There was one more, and that's going to be snow mode. So it's going to play with traction control, stability control, but you're going to be in either eco or normal the majority of the time. If you change it your drive mode, it can let you know. And then you've also got your climate control when you're in the eco mode. There's active sound design available inside of the ride too. So if you want it to have a little bit of a different sound, that's available. You've got your climate options there too. So you can recirculate air, defog, defrost, etc. I just recommend keeping all of these ones toggled on. But then just underneath the screen, you've got all of your different buttons there. So if we were to tap, that's where you're going to adjust out your main climate. So either tap to get to your menu buttons, tap again to adjust out your climate. So it's kind of neat. That's either going to be a volume rocker, tuning rocker, or when you're in climate, it's your climate control for driver passenger side. Different options for your seating. So there is seat easy entry exit. So what that's going to do is back the seat up for you to get in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier. If you had a power adjustable steering wheel, it's going to push the wheel forward for you to get in and out easier too. If you didn't have power seats or steering wheel, these options just wouldn't be there. There are different light options available. So there's ambient light where you can adjust the brightness, but you can also adjust out the color. And there's a full color wheel available there too. So you adjust out the color, just tap OK in order to customize it and really make it your own. But you can also lock it into your drive mode. And the benefit there is that as we move between all of the different drive modes, that's going to give you a slightly different look. So when you go into that sport mode, just dropping red looks so good. We unlink there. You can also dim the ambient light in darker conditions if you really wanted to. And then you've got different options for your turn signal. So the default is going to be 3 flashes. So you can go either 1, 3, 5, or 7. Do you want to get different welcome options there too? So welcome on the outside. Do you want to get that light? Yay, nay. Headlight delay. When you go to lock the vehicle, do the lamps just turn off or do they stay on for up to 15 seconds? You can select when the vehicle locks or unlocks. And that's things like when you shift into park, turn the vehicle off, etc. Approach unlock. So as you go to approach the vehicle, do you want the doors to automatically unlock? On the fob, do you want to have to press the unlock button twice for all doors to become unlocked? There's your power liftgate, which you can toggle off, so it's just going to be a manual liftgate. How fast or slow do you want it to open up? What height do you want to open up to? You've also got the option of selecting your own height. So there's a button on the liftgate door if you wanted to select your own unique height that way. There's a smart liftgate available too, and then there's also a pretty neat key fob trick that you can do. So let's hop outside and I'll show you how those ones work. So in order to be able to remote start, push the lock button once, push and hold that circle button there, and that's going to remote start the vehicle. So you can see there, lights have come on. We are now remote started. Now from there, if you've got the remote smart parking assistant, you can move up or down this way. But you see here, the wheels are turned. But one cool thing, as we go to use this, to go forwards, backwards, straightens it out, and look at that, starts to roll. Nobody inside the ride. You can go forwards, backwards with it. So if you need to get in or out of tighter spaces, that's what you're going to do in order to make it happen. And then you could push and hold there in order to cancel the remote start. I just love how it straightens the wheels out for you as you go. Lock from there. You could push and hold the trunk release button there in order to be able to open up the trunk, but there's also the smart trunk too, and that's a hands-free trunk. So all you have to do, get about 10 to 15 feet away from the vehicle for a few seconds, and then just walk up towards the back end. And as long as the feature is enabled, you're gonna hit this sweet spot. See there? You can hit the lock button at this point in order to be able to cancel that feature, but up she goes. There's a button here too, so you could open up the trunk door this way, and then you can also adjust out the height. So you could move this up or down to whatever position you'd like, push and hold here, in order to be able to lock it into place there. So now it's gonna open up all the way, but you can set your own unique height from there, and then just button push in order to be able to close. From there, you also have the option of being able to roll some windows down using the fob. In order to do it, you're just gonna push and hold the unlock button. So you're gonna push twice. You're gonna go 1, 2, and hold. Watch this. Keep on holding, because if you release, it's gonna pause it. So push again, and it's going to continue the process. That's rolling down the first row windows. Doesn't open up the sunroof though, but at least lets you air things out if you need to. That's pretty neat. I like the window trick. I really like the smart liftgate feature there too. But you can toggle that one off if you really don't like it. I've had people in the past say that their liftgates actually kind of tap the garage door, so you could toggle it off or create your own unique height if you'd like to. There are digital keys available, so using your smartphone as a key, using the Kia app. There's the NFC card available there too. Rear occupant alert. If you've opened up the second row doors, go to turn the vehicle off. It's going to tell you to check the back seats to make sure you haven't forgotten anybody back there. And you can toggle the wireless charging system off completely. There are 2 different options for the lighting. That's that. That's your driving assistance settings. Like, there are so many things. And I mean, you saw there, so you can either go through the list view, you can dive into each of these individual options, or you can search if you'd like to that way. There are some EV settings that are available, so battery conditioning, toggle utility mode on or off. So again, you'll see a few of these things done a few different ways. So we saw all of those EV settings on the main page. All of your navigation settings, which we've already seen all of these ones too. So your map options, classic look, etc. You've got a series of different sound settings that are available, which we've already seen. Device connections, if you've got phones hooked up, or changing your vehicle name that way. User profiles, which we can get to a few different ways, so either changing the profile or adjusting that out. Voice recognition is available there too, and I recommend turning this one on. So listen to this. 94.9 FM.
Now listening to FM 94.9.
So it tells you that it's changing the station versus 97.7 FM. It just does it. So one of the big things I always recommend, just turn that one on so you don't get as many prompts. But tapping on commands, you can see all of the options here. So you can adjust all of these things out. You can open and close the tailgate if you want to. Steering wheel heat on or off. Turn on the heated ventilated seats if they're available. There are so many things that you can do. So one thing that I'd recommend is when you get your EV6, dive into all of your voice recognitions because you can control the majority of things using your voice. Climate control, things like that. It's really simple to use. There's some screen layout options there too, and that's specifically for the cluster screen. You can adjust out your screensaver there too, so when the screen's actually turned off, do you want to have nothing showing up or do you want the clock showing up? And then what clock face would you like there? So if we go one or the other, digital clock is always good. Split screen is available there too, so you can see all of your information. You can do a drag and drop to say which order they're in and where that comes into play. If we go into our map for a second there, and then take that and swipe across, you've got your little split screen. So you can easily go up or down this way if you'd like to. That's all your screen setup options. Display options are available there too, so you can have it automatically adjust the brightness, adjust it out yourself, your camera contents, your part distance warnings, which we've already seen. Blue light filter is there too, so you can see that for sure. So it goes from like nice cool versus, so it gets rid of all the blue light inside of the ride. You can have the vehicle determine when that happens, or you can set it at a specific time. So you want it to be a little bit easier to see. You've got that flexibility. Helps to reduce eye strain later on at night. There are a few unique buttons available inside of the ride. So you've got your custom button. So down underneath the screen, if you're on this main menu, if you weren't, it'd disappear. But on this one, you've got your little star icon there. And then there are two along the steering wheel. But the one down here, what does that do? So when you tap it, do you want to go back to the home screen? Do you want to toggle the display off? So if we tap it now, that just toggles the display into that relaxing view that we had set up earlier. And then you can also adjust out your switch button. So this one down here that switches between climate versus the infotainment controls, you can toggle that one on and you can have it so that it automatically returns to one of the other options. So if you want it to default to climate after a few minutes, you can do that. You can adjust out the brightness of the screens there too if you'd like to, so either automatically adjust or make it brighter, darker, etc. You could also show what's showing. Again, seeing a few of these things, a few different places. You've got your cluster theme selection. So again, linking it to your drive mode or selecting one of those other options. Content selection. Do you want to have your icy road warning showing? The blind spot monitor. So if you hit the turn stalk to go left or right, does that show up? Not available in every trim level of the EV6. And then do you want to have a welcome sound when you first go to start the vehicle up? And there's some head-up display options. So if you have a head-up display inside of the ride, you'd see your head-up display there. If you had a route going, your turn-by-turn directions would show up. Cruise control going, things like that, that would show up there. But you can toggle the head-up display off completely if you'd like to. You could also adjust things. So do you want it to move up or down? You can rotate it. You can adjust the brightness. I always recommend keeping yourself on maximum brightness there. So you've got a few things that you can adjust out, including what content do you want showing up. So if you had media playing inside of the ride, do you want that showing up, yay or nay? If you had an active call going, your driving assistance info, blind spot safety there too. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, not only does it show you on the side view mirrors, but it can also show you inside of the head-up display. There's Kia Connect available, and then some general settings. So general, you've got your basic firmware info, map updates. You can do a USB update there too. Again, USB-C in order to do that. System information, you can see what storage is there, modem info, and then you can adjust your date and time. So that's grayed out because you're in the auto. So if you wanted to adjust it out manually, you could. Do you prefer to be in military time instead, so the 12 versus 24-hour mode? And then do you want to adjust out for daylight savings time? Yay or nay? Actually, I think that's wrong, yeah. Let's adjust it for daylight savings time there. Your language, do you want to be in either English, French, Spanish, or Korean? Your keyboard options. You've got your measurement units there too. And one of the benefits of it being a fully digital cluster screen is that as you go to adjust it out, it adjusts everything. So you can see there your speed along with your odometer, etc. And then that's the same thing for your temperature. So down low, so if we're on the temp screen, do you want to be in either Celsius or Fahrenheit? And then as you jump between either kilometers or miles, you're going to have different options available there too. So it's either miles, and then for kilometers, you want to be in kilometers an hour, 100 kilometers there. And tire pressure, do you want to be in PSI, kPa, or bar? There's some media options there too. So if you've got the audio cranked, do you want the media to be off when you start the vehicle up? And do you want to continue playing the media for a few minutes after the vehicle's turned off? And then there are reset options there too. So you could do a full factory reset if you'd like, or just delete the profile info. If the vehicle is giving you problems, so let's say Apple CarPlay is not working, Android Auto is not working, or it's glitching out on you, giving you problems. If you tap reset all, what that's going to do is bring you back to the factory defaults, and that's going to remove everything. So that'll get rid of any phones that you've connected, so Bluetooth connections, navigation that you've set up, presets, things like that. What you actually want to do is a soft screen reboot. In order to do it, all you want to do, grab a paper clip. From there, just underneath, you've got all of your different buttons there, but you see there's this little hole right there. You're just going to take your paper clip and then just insert, push, and what we've done is entered a soft reboot cycle. So it's the same thing as if you were to do a restart on your phone. So what it's doing is it's just cycling through, clearing the cache out, and that should get rid of the majority of issues that you're facing. Like I said, Apple CarPlay is not working, Android Auto is not working, the screen is frozen up on you. That should solve the problem. If that doesn't fix it, then your next step would be to do that full factory reset. If that doesn't work, your next step is going to be to bring it into your Kia dealership. You've got some cup holders, there's a wireless charge pad, and a great amount of storage space inside of that box, like more than wrist deep. It's good. There's nothing else in there though. Moving down, you've got a few USB Type-C ports. So the one on the left-hand side there is going to be for data transfer for charging. One on the right, strictly for charging. Got another USB charge port with a 12 volt and a good amount of storage space down there too. Basic styling wise, you've got that same type of material. It's kind of like wraps all the way up and around the dash there too. That GT line highlight. Then you've got that little metallic highlight that runs through. The glove box is non-lockable. It's a good amount of space in that box though. And then up overhead, there's an auto-dimming rear view mirror, which you'll find in the majority of trims, but then there's also fully digital rear view. So it utilizes that top mounted camera to show you what's going on behind you. Fantastic. From there, there's your SOS or tow mode. And then you've also got your dome lighting with a little sunroof there too. And like fully opens up rather than being locked in place. It's one thing I like about Kia electrics. Beautiful. I like the headliner though. The black headliner and the black there, the style works. From there, you've got your visor, ticket receipt holder on the inside, vanity mirrors there, and the light is built in over top. And this little feller extends out. That's blocking all of the sun. That's potentially gonna be hitting your face. And then you've got an assist handle along the driver's side and the passenger side inside of the first row. But overall, first row of the ride is solid. Inside of the second, you've got that same highlight. So you've got some speakers there. The option for second row heated seats, again in that highest trim level. Got a little bit of storage there, bottle holder. And then, spacing wise back here, so I've got the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall. I've got a great amount of knee space, foot space, and head space sitting fully upright. It's a little tight, so I'm like just touching. But There's the lever along the side there you'd use to fold the seat down. You can also give yourself a slight recline. It didn't really make much of a difference. Like half an inch of head clearance space. So not a ton of space inside of the second row, but I mean, if you're 6 feet tall, you'll be okay. If you've got kids, anchor points are down there. Top tether's in behind the seats. There's some cup holders built right in. Little slider tray there too if you need to clean it out in case kids are messy. From there, got a little handle, light control there too, and then a handle and a hook along the driver's side. Down low, you've got your basic vents there, and it's just a vent control that's going to default to whatever the driver's side climate is set to. You've got a mat pocket along both the driver and the passenger side, USB charge ports that are built right into both seats there too. It's just one of the added touches. I like how Kia does that. Down low here, nothing exciting, but flipping around, you're going to find a power point built right down there. Charging inside of the EV6 is done just along the outside here. The port here is different because we're now NACS compatible, which means that you can use Tesla charging stations in order to charge this thing up. But it's got support for level 1, level 2, and level 3 DC supercharging, with the charge times being all over the place depending on how you're charging and when you're charging. When in the sense of, are you charging during the spring, summer, fall, or the winter time? Because in the winter, it takes about 20% longer to charge, and your range is typically also negatively impacted by about 20%. And then looking at the range, that's going to depend on if you're rear wheel or all-wheel drive and which battery setup you have, because you've got either a 63 or there's an 84 kilowatt hour battery. In the standard range, you're looking at 381 kilometers or 237 miles, and you're maxing out in the vehicle at 513 kilometers or 319 miles in the long range. When you go for an all-wheel drive version, 475 kilometers or 295 miles. So there's a bit of a haircut, rear wheel versus all-wheel drive, but I would take the bump in power over the slight increase in range that you get. Well, that just comes down to a matter of personal preference. You're gonna find a 20-foot charge cable right from the factory from the EV6. It's got support for level 1 charging, and it's also IP67 weather rated. On top of that, you've got the flexibility to adjust out the current right on the brick. So if your outlet for level 1 isn't charging properly, you can lower it or raise it to increase your overall charge speed. You're gonna find LED tail lamps inside of the EV6, and walking up to the car later on at night, the lamps, the way that they glow, it's beautiful. And that ties nicely into the overall styling. Very unique compared to other vehicles inside of the Kia lineup. From a technology perspective, you're going to find the reverse park sensing system in every trim level of the ride. There's also the backup camera there. There's no rear wiper, but you will find an optional top-mounted camera, and that's for a fully digital rear view mirror. Towing inside of the EV6 is possible. You're at least 1,653 pounds, which isn't much, but that's the entry-level rear-wheel drive model. Otherwise, you're 2,700 pound max towing capacity, which is pretty solid. So bike carriers, small trailers, boats, things like that, not gonna have an issue. But here's the thing, if you are towing in an electric, kind of similar to a regular gas engine too, if you're towing more, it's gonna negatively impact your overall range. How much it gets impacted though is going to depend on your driving habits and how much weight you're pulling, but just go in knowing if you are towing, your range will be cut down. Getting into the boot of the ride can be done so many different ways. There's a button to the left-hand side of the steering wheel. You can use the Keyfob to do it. Just to the right-hand side of the backup camera, there's also a little button there that you can push. And then you're also gonna find the option for a hands-free liftgate. So as long as you've got the Keyfob on you, you're just gonna walk up towards the back end of the ride, and there's this kind of sweet spot that you've gotta hit. You can hit the lock button to pause it at this point. Hands-free trunk. I love that feature. And then in the back here, there's not really too much going on. There's a release for the second row seat along the right-hand side. And then along the left side, you're gonna find a light. There's a 12-volt power point, and then a release for the second row seat. But before I get there, there's a tray that you can lift up for a tiny little bit of storage. Folding down the second row seats can be done from the trunk, and you can also do it from the second row. So there are just little levers that you're gonna pull to fold those seats down. But doing it from the back here, you're just gonna pull the tab, and down that seat goes. And there is a solid amount of space inside of the boot of this ride. And the cargo measurements that you're looking at right now, the ones specifically behind the first row, they go from right where that trunk door would close to just in behind that little console armrest between the first row seats. So with the driver's seat, passenger seat, where forwards or backwards, you'd gain or lose a little bit of extra space. You're going to find a tire mobility kit inside of the EV6. So if you ever puncture a tire, you can try to seal it up yourself. So you've got the goop and then the compressor, but you also do have access to Kia roadside assistance. And then one thing, once that seat is actually down, it's locked down into place. So in order to lift it back up again, you just have to pull the release there in order to be able to lift it up. So you're just going to pull, lift, and you're good to go. The liftgate, you can also adjust out to a custom height too. So if it's too high for your garage, you can't reach the button to close, just pull down to whatever height you'd like to. Once you do, there's a button on the door. You're just going to push and hold till you get that chime. And now it's not going to open up past that point. And then just button push to close.
So far, I'm going to say that I have really enjoyed the EV6. The car is a blast. It's incredibly powerful. The cabin is really quiet. It's just a fun drive overall. And let's do some en route handling here. Oh, never fun when a slow car gets in front of you there. All right, here we go. Give it a second. And 3, 2, and here we go. Beautiful. The acceleration there is great. Handling. There's beautiful. Just one thing that the EV6 is known for, and Kias in general, they have very good handling. The speed there was pretty good, and I gotta say, it is incredibly quiet inside of this ride. You don't really hear much. Like normally you'd hear a little bit along the window seam, along the driver's door, next to nothing here. It's amazing.
And that was everything you needed to know about the Kia EV6. You can find all of the build details for this one down in the description with links off to Kia Canada and US. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care.